The James Show Podcast.
Good to see you two. Shut up. Let's get into it. To tell the story, to set the table here for dinner, is going to be our neighbor over from Fort Worth, Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil. If you haven't been keeping up with Dr. Phil, by the way, for a lot of people, your knowledge of Dr. Phil begins and ends with what he did with the Oprah show. And yeah, didn't he have his own little talk show? Well, he has split off from the networks, made his own network. And this new iteration of Dr. Phil is fantastic. If you weren't a fan of his before and you're a fan of WBAP, you might want to check it out because he sounds more like old James Parker these days than Oprah. But listen to this little 2-minute rundown on why Mamdani's wife is getting so much attention the last few days on social media.
For most Americans, it's nobody's business who you share your bed with. But that changes when you're married to one of the most powerful politicians in America. I'm talking about New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani and his wife, Rama Douaji. Now, being the spouse of the mayor of the largest city in America comes with a certain level of responsibility and scrutiny. And right now, Douaji deserves just a lot of that scrutiny. Report from the Jewish Insider, Douaji liked Instagram posts just hours after the October 7th attacks on Israel that celebrated Hamas assault and pushed anti-Israeli rhetoric. She liked one post claiming the October 7th mass rape was a hoax, and another showing Hamas militants breaking into Israel with tanks. And in case anyone has forgotten, on October 7th, Hamas terrorists murdered over 1,200 people and took more than 250 hostages. It doesn't matter how strongly someone supports the Palestinian cause. Anyone who likes what happened on October 7th is not standing for human rights. They're standing with terror. Mayor Mamdani defended his wife, saying,
my wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall.
But let's get real and talk about the real story. When you're the spouse of the mayor of the largest city in America and you're supporting the murder of hundreds of innocent Jews, trust me, that's not private. That's public. And Mayor Mamdani, hear this clearly. When terror is excused, silence isn't neutrality. It's complicity. And that's the real story.
Ooh, Mamdani's wife was liking a whole bunch of terrorism posts. She was applauding October 7th. She was siding with the Palestinians on October 7th. Wow. Now, some people are making some quite obvious assumptions here. And although they are assumptions, it's pretty reasonable. Mamdani himself, not his wife, did he have similar posts that he managed to purge before anyone screenshotted him? Did he have a whole bunch of posts like that in his social media? Or do you think there's really just a grand canyon of difference in the politics between Mamdani and his wife? A guy who's an outspoken Muslim, an outspoken socialist, and just covered for the terrorists that tried to blow up the people in front of his house 2 days ago. Scott Jennings is talking with his guest. He has his own little show. This wasn't on CNN. Some lady, Elizabeth Pipko. She's a Republican Party spokeswoman. And they were talking about how, look, this Mamdani wife, turns out she probably loves terrorism, and that should be a big deal.
Arrested these folks. I'll ask you one more question about the Mamdani situation here. And I'm going to ask you about his wife, the First Lady of New York City. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of posts that have been discovered online where she was liking posts that were celebrating October the 7th, that massacre that happened in Israel. She was calling it a rape hoax online. I mean, obviously, she was expressing solidarity and jubilee with the terrorists and what they had done on October the 7th. What do you make of this? I remember a couple of years ago, we had to live through the whole frenzy where Samuel Alito's wife had hung up a George Washington flag on their front porch, and the entire left and media went crazy. Are the mayor's wife's social media interactions here fair game for people to talk about?
Well, they're 100% fair game, but the problem is that we're pretending that this is a surprise, right? A bunch of people are not saying that, oh, this is not surprising at all. We know that he holds the same views. They're instead pretending that he is this innocent man who's married to someone who's completely off limits, and that very, very often in these high-profile relationships, the husband and wife don't discuss their political beliefs, and they might hold very different values, and it's irrelevant what she thinks. When in reality, not only is it not irrelevant what you think, but I think you and I and how many other people have said that these are his beliefs as well. Mamdani has not really fought the allegations at all over the last few years of campaigning that he does not share the exact same beliefs. When I saw this, I was wondering why it was a major story today. When I had seen those likes, we'd all discussed this many, many months ago, if not years ago at this point. So I think the narrative, again, is the problem. We're wondering if it's off limits to discuss her posts. Why are we not wondering the fact that he literally agrees with everything that she said? He probably has the exact same post that he had to hide before running, and we all know these are the exact views of the current mayor of New York City. I don't really care what his wife believes.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that too. I'm not so concerned about what the wife believes as I'm concerned about this is a guy this is your soulmate? Your soulmate's a terrorist sympathizer? That means you can't be too dug in with your heels against terrorism or your wife wouldn't want to be around you. You know, this isn't like a simple differences of opinions. This isn't even like a James Carville, Mary Madeline situation. We'll get to James Carville in just a second. You know, where one's a Republican, one's a Democrat, but these crazy kids are in love and they're going to find a way to make it work. But no, the people who want to kill you if you don't submit versus the people who won't submit, that's not a marriage that's going to work out. That's not a healthy marriage. So does it make more sense that Mamdani didn't know that his wife believed this? Does it make more sense that he knew his wife believes this, but he just loves her anyway, and we're just two kids that are trying to work it out? Or does it make more sense? I'm not saying it's not possible that these other scenarios don't exist, but isn't the more probable scenario that he's sympathetic to those same views? Doesn't that make more sense in the light of his reaction to the terror attack from the Muslims just this weekend in front of his mayoral mansion? Gracie House in New York City is where the mayor lives, and that's
New York City.
There was the anti-Muslim protesters, Jake Lang and his goofy group of weirdos. But even worse was the guy screaming Allahu Akbar, throwing 2 homemade bombs. And he comes out there, he's like, boy, we sure do have to do something about white supremacy. Does it make more sense that he's really getting everything this wrong, or that he is one of them? And when I say one of them, he's on Team Muslim. He's told you he's on Team Muslim. He's told you that's where his allegiances lie. And people have been trying to tell the people of New York and everywhere else, like, hey, I don't know about this guy. No, he represents the people. Really, he represents the people? He just flew home to Uganda to his family's compound. You know, and when I say compound, I don't mean they have a couple of houses on a 40-acre spread out in Van Zandt County. I mean, they're in Uganda. They have a giant walled-off multi-building installment because his family's one of the rich elites. Did you ever go to a family wedding in Uganda at a compound? I mean, did you? Do you eat rice with your hands? Do you pretend to eat rice with your hands? Stop, Garrett. You're not helping. No, here, it just makes more sense. He's on their side. He believes what they believe. Admit it. He is sympathetic with the terrorists, which is why he framed the attack, the attempted murder on straight white Christian male Jake Lang. Once again, taking the side against him. Taking the side of the Muslim immigrants. They're not even American. Yes, they're naturalized citizens, but no, they were born in a foreign country. They came here. They're not natural born citizens. They're not the same as you and me. And I actually had someone pop up. They're like, you wouldn't dare say that about Melania Trump. Yeah, I would. She's a foreigner. She's not born here. She's a naturalized citizen. Why would I not say that? That's not an insult to say someone's a foreigner. They're from a different country. Or they're from a different culture. The insult is if your country's culture makes you think it's okay to chuck nail bombs at some dude on the sidewalk in New York City for a difference of political opinion. This is RL in Weatherford. Hey, RL, you're on WBAP.
Hey, James. Good day to you.
Good day.
Well, she, but no, I think a couple things real quick. She really does. I agree with you. You know, what's the difference in what his wife says? Well, It depends, really. I mean, if there's a future for this guy, nobody ever thought much about Hillary either, and she was the one running the whole show, and she's still continues to be the one running the whole show. Secondly, I really think that people are real slow in this country to wake up to threats and different things, so they're so busy doing their daily stuff, and they're so selfish.
Hang on. I hate to play the semantic game, but no, this country isn't slow to pick on threats. This country is way too fast at picking up on irrational threats. The way that they go out there and they're worried about straight white Christian males or white rural rage, they're writing books, they're doing interviews, they're protesting ICE. Yeah, they get a little too freaked out. They're like, oh my God, they're enforcing our immigration laws. We better go stop them with our car.
I'm talking about the conservative people a little too slow sometimes. I think this all will. I really think. I mean, I'm a sixth generation Texan. Van Zandt County, 160 years. I really think that this will all eventually just play itself out. I think the Elians and the Rashidas and this kind of guy here, I think this comes to a head and it's done. And I think they become a done thing. Now, it may take a little bit longer than we want, but I think this type of situation is going to resolve itself one way or the other. And I don't see these people gaining too much. I realize there's a lot of crap going on and media exploits it to no end, but I really think this is going to play itself out eventually.
Well, what's going to happen in Frisco? How's that going to play itself out? They're almost unstoppable majority of votes.
Well, when people finally realize from 759 A.D. for 1,000 years to 1759, the Muslims, Mohammedites, what the military calls them, they call them Mohammedites, I mean, they call them Muslims, tried to take over the world, and it didn't work. And they killed a lot of people, and a lot of bad things happened. This is still the United States of America, and I think we are very tolerant about a lot of things that we shouldn't be. Trust me, I'm with you. I listen to you. You're preaching to the choir on this thing because I'm about 30 years older than you are. But it won't last.
I hear you.
It'll get to a fever pitch, and we will put it down or we will squash it down.
RL?
One way or the other.
I hope you're right, and I hope it happens one way and not the other. This is Shane in Greenville. You're on WBAP. Hey, Shane.
Sir, I would like to ask the mayor of New York if he thinks his life is on the line if he ever condemns Hamas's actions, because wouldn't his wife have to take matters in her own hand?
I suppose so. Yeah. No, that's a valid point. So,
if they ever do condemn it, then they're an infidel, right?
Well, no. They could be exercising takia, where you're allowed to lie for the sake of the religion. Yeah,
that's right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. They can say they're lying, but then he is a politician, so he's probably pretty good at that.
Well, we know they lie about it. They've been caught too many times before. It's actually written into their, code of ethics. We don't have that in Christianity. We don't have the part where Jesus says, don't lie, unless it helps Christianity, or unless you're trying to trick the infidels, or unless you're trying to, commit mass murder on a terroristic scale. Then it's okay to lie. So, you would think, these are definite cultural differences that should have any objective observer kind of concerned about the Islamic world not assimilating over here, but they don't seem to be concerned about it.
Yeah. But I would like to hear somebody ask him that. If you do condemn it, are you afraid? And see if he says yeah or no, he condemns it. Because then he can go back and say he's lying, but none of them have ever condemned nothing.
Well, what do you think he would say if he was asked a direct question?
Something like, I think all life is important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they've done in the past. I condemn all political violence. And in fact, that was part of his initial reaction on social media. He was like, violence has no place. There was white supremacist protesters and some counter protesters, and some bombs were found. Violence has no place in political protests. It's like, bro, we're not the violent ones. Violence isn't coming from both sides of the political aisle. It's coming from almost exclusively one side of the political aisle. There's not any right wingers who are running around throwing bombs and throwing little, nail IEDs at their political opponents. We're not setting people on fire. We're not going into 6th Street and shooting people. We're not shooting Jews as they come out of the museum in D.C. We're not driving our cars through crowds on holidays. It's not a both sides issue, but that's what I think they would say, Shane in Greenville.
Well, he's only upset that it happened in front of his house.
I don't even think he's upset about that. I think he's upset the bombs didn't go off.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And I'm not saying that to be like sensational or hateful or trying to get everybody to hate the guy. Absolutely, I think he's upset the bombs didn't go off.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they're making a big thing about you just go online and look it up to make it. So now they're telling everybody, yeah, just go online and do it. It's the worst bomb ever you can make, to kill hundreds of people.
Well, they will say that, Shane. But if the bomb goes off, what are the odds that it's going to be a Muslim of some flavor or it's going to be a Lutheran with a grudge?
Very high. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you very much on a not funny topic. But yeah, that's Shane in Greenville. Saying some pretty obvious things. But look, I really do hope that's one of the reasons I hope this is a short-term excursion. So as many as these sleeper cells can stay underwater as possible, that's probably best for all of us. All right, how bad's the price of gas going to get for you? And giving me another assist on this, RT Trevino, Crude Truth Podcast, Pecos Country Energy. I noticed the oil futures spiked up and are already on their way down. Does that mean the spike in gas prices are going to recede soon too?
That's what we do expect to happen. Good to be back, and what a wild whirlwind it has been the last week, and especially since we last talked, James. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we've had a whole oil price spike cycle. So I filled up on Monday with $3.20 over at Buc-ee's. That's a lot higher than around Christmas when it was about $2 out in Bug Tussle. Is it going to get higher before it gets lower?
We definitely could see something like that. And what we will see is almost like just a little bit more rough before the calm. And what's going on right now is the overreaction that we saw on what was going on over the weekend in Iran and in the Middle East. So now that has calmed down, the president came out yesterday with a statement. The president came out again with a statement today. And it's actually because of those statements and his actions that the price of oil has gone down tremendously over the last 24 hours.
So are we still having issues with the Straits of Hormuz themselves or with the financial backing of the insurance companies for those ships?
Man, you have been doing your research. It is for the financial backing, a.k.a. the insurance companies. Let's not call it financial backing. Let's call it what it is, James. The insurance companies like the Lloyd's of London are holding up the oil and gas tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, yeah, and there seems to be a monopoly on that. What's keeping other big players from stepping in and filling that gap?
That is a great question. And right now what we're seeing is that the bigger players are really continuously raising those prices to where it's almost unattainable. Some are even at 600% the original price of insurance to move these ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Say that 10 times fast.
Right. Move these strips through the straits of this horse. So is bad news for the oil producers on the other side of the planet good news for oil producers in Texas?
Yes, what that shows is that we're gonna, if nothing else, continue to steady drill, baby drill, and more importantly, produce. What's happening right now in the Middle East will affect us, especially if prices stay high. If we see these prices stay above $85 over the next week or so, I could definitely really see some more rigs being picked up in West Texas and begin drilling again, which then adds more jobs. But then, of course, we will once again come back down. However, with President Trump yesterday and the G7, which includes France, Canada, and some other countries like Britain, they're tapping into their reserves, and we are actually lifting sanctions on Russia for 30 days so that we can get this oil on the global market to move it to and from to lower the prices here in America and abroad.
All right, we're talking with RT Trevino from the Crude Truth podcast. Donald Trump said that this is going to be a short-term excursion in Iran. The oil futures market seemed to jump on that and say that things are going to be back to normal in about 3 to 6 months. How reliable have the futures contract buyers been in the past?
That is a question that depends on who you are. When you see what happened Monday morning, I think that was nothing but fear and manipulation to the price of oil, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that 110%. It blows me away that you literally can jump $30 in a day due to speculation. I think that should be something that should be looked at. But what the reason why people do that is so that they can either short or gain, and that's the people that are making money that day were the day traders.
Well, there's nothing we can do about that. If you don't want to get burned by that, don't be a day trader.
There you go. I don't day trade. I'm too busy working.
So does this affect the local producers like you, Pecos Country Energy? What have y'all had to make any adjustments because of the Iranian war?
That's a great question, James. Thank you very much for asking, because actually a lot of people haven't asked. We are still going to continue to be business as usual. We're still looking at projects, and right now I'm still budgeting at $60 oil. We don't know what's going to happen, okay? And right now, the uncertainty is true. I don't think that the price needs to reflect it. But, hey, we still don't know what all may or may not happen. And right now, with the price of oil, where it has been historically over the last 6 months, we still want to kind of run with those average numbers and not all of a sudden wake up today and go, hey, we're going to sell an oil and gas project at $100 a barrel, because that is totally irresponsible for those individuals that do that.
What's coming up on the Crude Truth podcast?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We just did a great interview with George P. Bush where we talked about Iran and how, President Trump definitely sees that the days of boots on the ground are done. We compared Venezuela to Iran. And I've got another great interview coming out this Friday with a Dr. Beatrice Canamari, who is a expert in the ports and maritime industry, and we discuss actually how the United States civilian ports are not wartime ready.
Oh, well, that sounds nice and scary. RT Trevino, Crude Truth Podcast and Pecos Country Energy. Thank you very much for the oil update, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next on the James Show, it's been really hard to not play this next soundbite every single segment. But James Carville went on a tear, and Garrett showed me this. It was on Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins earlier today. So if you heard this, all day listeners, you're going to hear it again, and we'll get a good laugh about this. But when we talk about Trump derangement syndrome, this is real, and it's not endemic to the left. There's such thing. There was Obama's derangement syndrome. There are people who get irrational levels of hatred for their political opponents on both teams. But it's nothing like this. And it's just to be so overt and public about it and not embarrassed that you're having a mental breakdown, it's just fantastic. It's a wonderful piece of audio. And the madder he gets, the more you're going to laugh. So stick around for the James Show and James Carville's epic TDS meltdown. That's next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.